Wendy Goldstein spoke to Fox 7 Tuesday, concerned because someone's pig had been going after her family.
The 2024 Republican presidential primary field is taking shape.
The battle lines are becoming clearer, and so is the field of candidates.
Is the odds-on favorites, if you look at the polling, still Trump versus Biden?
That seems to be it, but it's just way too early to tell.
I'm more angry now, and I'm more committed now than I ever was.
Big challenge for these candidates is going to be how do they navigate Donald Trump? And how do they navigate Ron DeSantis?
You and I have a rendezvous with destiny.
That's a tough concern.
I mean, she's very upset. Welcome to the Ruthless Variety Program. That's a hell of an entryway, isn't it? To a nice Tuesday episode.
I mean, it's a difficult concern. You know, you want to know which family is responsible for sending a pig after yours. You know? Like, what's the meaning behind it? Are you being targeted?
We've had these problems for quite some time, Smash.
Well, we sure have, and there is a very, very elegant yet simple solution to the problem. It's 3 steps: breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Perfect.
If a pig is in your yard, you kill it and you cook it. It's that simple.
It's bacon.
Bacon, pork chops, ribs. You got everything that you might need, and it's all right there in your front yard.
You don't think the authorities need to be involved?
I don't think so at all.
They can show up to the barbecue. And
exactly.
I have to ask, because all of these clips, if you get a local news clip that starts that way, it strikes me that there's more gold there.
Yeah.
That we're missing. Wolf, do we have the whole news clip? I'd love to see that. If we can cue that up, I've got to see what else this lady's got for us.
She describes the pig as 300 pounds, black and white spotted, and foaming at the mouth. On Monday, this 911 call came in.
We had some random pig in our yard, and it's owned by my grandma. My grandma is being attacked by a random pig. Now my grandma's being attacked.
There's a wild hog in the yard at that address. Is going after
us. It's in our house now.
Mud stains and scratches could be seen on the door. Goldstein says the pig went after her daughter and disabled parents.
My daughter got hurt out here, and then he barreled through. My mom wrestled with him at the doorway to try to prevent him from coming in. He barreled on through, got a hold of my dad. My mom tried to lay on top of him to crunch him down until the cops got here to get him. And he overpowered her and got on top of her. And he had hers flattened like an accordion.
I mean, I'm so glad that I asked for that. I'm so glad.
Flattened like an accordion.
Here's something a lot of people don't realize. Pigs are, of course, very, very nasty, aggressive animals. They're also very smart.
Yeah.
So the idea that you can just adopt a 300-pound pig and just let it be around your house is a complete lunacy.
And to be clear, like you said, this is one of those, like, domesticated pigs. This is not one of those wild hogs like in Texas that are causing all
it doesn't matter if domesticated or not. Like, wild animals are wild animals.
Yeah, I mean, it's insane. They estimate the thing at 300 pounds.
But I still didn't get, was it a pet?
This is a neighbor's pet.
Yeah, black and white spotted. It wasn't like one of those wild hogs covered in the brown hair, you know?
Somebody thought they had like Piglet.
But
and they ended up with like a hyena.
Like Babe.
Right. The point I'm making is that there is no distinction. When a hog is that big, it is nasty and it's hungry.
I did notice that it went after the most vulnerable amongst us.
100%. Like, it's going after the children and the grandparents.
The disabled parents and the grandchild.
You got to bring a hog like that down right away, and you got to feed the neighborhood.
That's my question: is how do you not kill? Like, why is your first thought? I'm going to first try to block it from the door instead of just closing the door. And then, like, if you don't have a gun, it's time for the knives. Like, this thing is going to be like a stuck pig.
Right.
They even showed the scratches on the door. The pig was like, what are they? They have hooves, right?
Yeah.
They're not like a claw. It's like a hoof.
Uh-huh.
It was hooving the door.
Right.
To get it down.
Coming after him because it knew that they weren't going to kill it. It knew it was safe. You can't let animals feel that comfortable around you.
Look, they said it was foaming at the mouth. So I think at that point you're well within your right, family pet or not, neighbor's pet, whatever. Foaming at the mouth, you got to take that down for the good of the neighborhood.
Right. I mean, you got to get it's knives and hammers. If you don't have a gun, just crack that thing open. Like
This is where neighbors stick together.
Yeah.
Right.
Wolf, do we have any idea where that clip came from? Is that like
Llano County? in Texas.
Oh, yeah, you're all over this.
Yeah. Well, I did my background research here from the
You've
tweet.
been following
Wait,
it.
where
Okay.
in Texas is Llano County?
I feel like it's sort of central east.
Okay, so that's out there.
Yeah, it's not Nacogdoches, but you know.
It's insane. The 911 call. Like, there's a random pig here.
They're like,
Yeah.
hey,
No
like all the pigs.
The
out.
random pig.
That pig's out again.
Like,
We'll have somebody on the way.
Right, you're out there in you're out there in Central Texas, and your first move is to pick up a phone and dial 911. I mean, it seems like that's one of the places on earth where you're well within your right to pull out a gun.
Well,
and
I would
take
have
care of
thought like
business.
a 30-06 laying around somewhere would have taken care of it, but I guess not. Welcome to the Ruthless Variety Program. We've started off hot here. We've got a lot going on. And first of all, I want to thank everybody for showing up to our live show last week. What an incredible time that was, wasn't it, fellas?
Yeah, we had a packed house, and I mean, the place was rocking and rolling. Everyone's having a great time.
Yeah, I mean, it was solid.
Yeah, crowd was great. It's great mixing it up with people. Got to meet a bunch of people. Had a lot of fun.
Katie Pavlich was awesome.
Yeah. Mary Catherine Ham showed up.
She was there.
She was there.
Yeah.
I mean, we had a really good time, and that's what you get with live events. If you're there to hear every decibel of the debate, probably not the event that you want to come to. If you want to have a hell of a good time while everybody else makes fun of us, this is perfect.
I mean, it really was a blast, and like we'd mentioned, so many folks came from all over the country. There were folks who flew in for this event, made sure to go say hey to everybody, and it's just like we have the best listeners.
Yeah,
it becomes so crystal clear whenever we have a live event.
A lot of people hung out afterwards, and I mean, we talked to almost everybody who was there, and that was actually one of the coolest things about the whole setup for the event is that we did the show, and then people just sort of stuck around, and we had a couple of pops with some of our really good friends.
Couple of pops, with
good
the
times.
fellas. No, it's fantastic. So I don't know if you guys felt this way. We'll get into the news in a second, but I don't know if you guys felt this way, but it was a hell of a sports weekend, right? You get that in the fall. You get the end of the baseball season. We had the Ryder Cup, which happens every 2 years, and I don't miss a single swing of that. You had some important football games, both on the college side and NFL. There was just a lot of stuff to take your attention away from the morass of life.
Mm-hmm.
And then, my Twitter feed, every time I popped onto Twitter, it's like, well, this asshole is trying to shut down the government, and this guy they're arguing on the House floor about it. And I was like, I got such a good perspective of what it must be like to just sit in the middle of the country and then have your space invaded repeatedly by absolutely unnecessary, totally overblown, stupid bullshit out of D.C. Didn't you guys feel that way? I was almost like, I can't believe I actually have to, I can't believe I have to take attention to read this.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine the vast majority of this country is trying to live their lives. Meanwhile, a Democrat congressman's like pulling the fire alarm, trying to get the House to break up so nothing can be done. Like, it's the people who are sent to serve the American people are instead providing a headache to the American. They're like an impediment.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was absolutely, completely ridiculous. But, we follow this kind of thing. And so we trust that you all didn't and shouldn't. But we will, and we'll provide a breakdown for you. So over the weekend, there was this big talk about government shutdown, the looming shutdown, which was seen as an inevitability for a Republican Congress for quite some time. They avoided one in a short-term extension, one way or another. But leading up to this, we talked about it a little bit last week. There's this small little cabal that's led by Matt Gaetz of Florida that seems more interested in trying to depose Kevin McCarthy than he is about anything policy-wise in this discussion. And I'll remind people, look, for those of you who don't follow the ins and outs of Congress on a day-to-day basis, and I don't blame you because it's absolutely some of this stuff makes you want to disband the House of Representatives because it's completely ridiculous. But funding the government, like CRs, what they call it's just a continuing resolution, meaning everything gets funded at the same level it did last year, no higher, no lower. You don't get adjusted to inflation. For a short term, is basically the most non-essential thing you could do in government. Like it doesn't. This is not something that is high stakes poker, but it has always been since Newt Gingrich back in the early '90s and his showdowns with Bill Clinton, elevated culturally from journalists as a D-Day.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like this is the beaches of Normandy every third week of September. Honestly, doesn't it feel like? And so, like 3 months ago, everybody's like ramping up. Ooh, what about the shutdown? What about the shutdown? What about the shutdown? And it's like, I mean, first of all, it's never really mattered one way or another. You shut it down for a couple of days, don't shut it down. Whatever. You shut it down for 2 weeks under Trump. They opened it back up. Some people got their vacations at Yellowstone fucked up. I mean, other than that, it's like, it is what it is. But they always act like this is the single most important thing that Congress can do. And I think a little bit of perspective is owed to this. There's a lot of really consequential shit that the House and Senate does on a day-to-day basis. Tons of stuff that the administration does regulatorily and by executive order that has very real consequences for the American people. The Fed, the Supreme Court, all of those things, they have a lot of stuff. None of that shit is just like, well, we're not going to do anything, which is what a CR is. And yet, every single time everybody acts as though it's the biggest thing in the world. Mm-hmm. So you get congressmen who are clowns that, because the cameras are on them and because all the journalists are acting as though that this is like the most important thing in the world, that they're like, well, adjust my bow tie. It's time to go to work and become the most important thing in the world. And like, you were immediately reminded why it is that like none of these people should see a camera ever in the first place.
We've got major cities in a doom loop, and even Wall Street is trimming the fat to save their bacon. But not every investment is floundering right now. One of our longtime partners is actually thriving. That's right, because Masterworks now has 13 sales to date. That's 5 more sales just since we talked about them in December. And like before, every single sale to date has handed back a positive net return to investors. That includes recent net returns of 10, 13, and even 35%. As of 6/19, Masterworks has over 740,000 users and over $750 million invested. Masterworks has so much demand that paintings can sell out in minutes. As a result, they have a wait list. But because we're longtime partners, you're getting special access. So go to Masterworks.com and use promo code Ruthless. That's promo code Ruthless at Masterworks.com to join today. See important Regulation A disclosures at Masterworks.com/CD. This is not investment advice.
I mean, it's basically the quickest way to get attention. It's like, oh, I have something to say about the shutdown.
Yeah.
Every journo in the building's going to come running over.
Yeah.
Well, that's, you know, the reason why is because it goes back to something you said at the very beginning, because Democrats and their allies in the media, principally their allies in the media, have made a determination that Republicans are at fault for any shutdown that occurs. Democrats are never at fault. So that any time that a reporter hears the word shutdown, they're thinking, oh, my editor who wants Democrats to look good, our bosses who want Democrats to look good are going to like this story. I'm going to go and pursue Republicans who are making this happen. And too many Republicans play right into it every single time. Half a dozen played into it this time, and they're playing into it because there's no jeopardy of them losing their seat. They don't need to like get a vote of anybody. Like they don't even respect their constituents. They know that they're going to be reelected over and over and over again. Their jobs are just as reliably safe as every bureaucrat who they never hold accountable because they only think about themselves, not what's actually good for their constituents. So I think that this is a problem that will continue to happen because Republicans take the bait over and over again, and they constantly play into what the media wants.
I mean, I agree with that. I think it's also worth noting, though, that during a fight like this where you got a razor thin margin in the House, you know, if you're a member of the House of Representatives and you're trying to extract something as leverage for your vote, now's the time to do it, you know? So you can understand. But it's got to
be a real thing.
Correct. And I know what you guys are saying, and obviously I agree that what we saw was just, ass clownery. But you can understand if you're a frustrated member of the House and there's something you want to accomplish or a priority that you have, that this is the time where you can extract something for your vote. So I get that as an individual member being like, all right, now's my time to get a priority that I think has been on the back burner thrust to the front.
Yeah, no question about it, because the media treats it like it's D-Day.
Right.
So now is the time for you to do that. But like they're all talking about the big deal that happened back on the debt ceiling, where he made a deal, McCarthy made a deal with President Biden about where they were going to cap appropriation numbers. And then there were some Republicans that, despite that deal being done, didn't feel great about that. So they decided to go a little lower than that. They put that on the floor and everybody sort of disagreed with that. And then they talked about, regular order, we need to do regular order, individual appropriations bills. And I just looked. All 12 of these things have had action in the committee level. All 12. Mm-hmm. So, like, it's actually Republicans that are the issue with whether or not these have been sort of processed or not. If you want regular order, it's right out here in front of you. Mm-hmm. Like, you could handle it at any time. Like, don't blame Kevin McCarthy for that. You all should just handle it. But then on the other side is, you've got this Matt Gaetz contingent that is hell-bent on just making this about Kevin McCarthy. And we said this last week. We by the way, if you listen to that episode, everything that happened last weekend, you knew 6 days beforehand.
Yeah.
I mean, because that's exactly the way it all played out. So Matt Gaetz then says, okay, well, I'm going to have a motion to vacate, which, if you recall, this is one of the things that was conceded in Speaker McCarthy's initial election to a crew that ultimately ended up, many of whom voted for him, was that they would reinstate a policy that allowed any one member of the House of Representatives to bring up what they call a motion to vacate, which means the whole House needs to vote either to expel the current speaker or to keep the current speaker, which is incredible, like dumb fuckery at its highest level. The idea that you go through the whole process of an election to elect a House Republican majority, you elect a speaker, and then you need to constantly be having a referendum on you for 2 years in order to actually do any business. Like, that's not the way it works.
And it's like, hey, voters, we can't govern.
Yeah.
Look at us. Reelect us, though.
Never mind the fact that Joe Biden has got open borders, a shitty economy. He can't string two sentences together. Honestly, should be in a nursing home at this point. You've got a Democratic Party that is completely rudderless.
Yeah.
And if they have a message, it's like, we don't really care about working class Americans.
And we're like, no, let's fail the basic competency test ourselves.
Here, to play devil's advocate for a second. So we do see these problems, like very glaring issues like the open border that this administration is doing nothing about. And given that this is a moment that gets intense, media attention, and that you can use this to twist arms and get what you want for your vote.
Yeah.
Why not say, okay, if we don't get the border under control, you're not getting my vote.
What's wild about that to me is that they didn't do that.
Right.
It's not like they were like, I insist truckloads of razor wire to the Rio Grande, machine guns to the rest of the border, and panels up everywhere else. Otherwise, I'm not going to vote to fund the government.
Mortars to the border.
They didn't do
mortar in it.
They didn't do any of that.
So from the Associated Press story here more, because Smug, I was sort of insinuating the same here earlier on in the segment when I was like, look, if you are trying to extract something like border security or something like this is a moment of absolute leverage where you can force something in there. Maybe the whole party picks the one talking point, the thing that they need to do, and maybe you get that accomplished.
And then further, you could peel off, like you're seeing in New York City now. That town is fed up with the illegal immigrants. But the governor's like, I'm sick of this. We're full up. Send signs to the border saying that New York City is full. Like, you could even get reps in the state of New York, the Democrats there.
But from the article, on Friday, McCarthy brought a short-term plan to fund the government that would enact steep spending cuts of nearly 30% to many agencies and strict border security provisions. But that was deemed insufficient by some Republicans, and 21 joined every Democrat in voting against the bill.
So there you go.
That's the problem. I mean,
this is what
we have one house.
This is what we outlined. This
and
is what we outlined last
Tuesday.
Tuesday. If you can't play team ball, remember we talked about this.
Yeah.
If you can't play team ball with a small majority, all you're doing is allowing Democrats to have leverage to water down what it is that you want to do.
Yeah.
Now, I understand the team ball is a moving target. It's very difficult to get 218 votes on the same page for anything. But it looks like they had 200 votes, or damn close, for something ridiculously more conservative than what they ultimately got. And the people who didn't want to vote for it were the quote-unquote conservatives.
Right.
So you tell me how that works.
Right. There was a time, kind of at the rise of the Tea Party, and a lot of leadership people were very frustrated at this moment when the Tea Party members who came into office thought their mission is to move Republicans to the right, to make the Republican conference more conservative. And that doesn't appear to be the goal of this current cabal. It's
not
like
the same.
It's like I'm out for myself, and who cares? Who cares what conservative things are accomplished? It's very different, and it's just not as effective.
It used to be get the most conservative best deal you can get that will pass.
Yeah.
And now it's you'd rather lose and whine and complain that you got nothing rather than moving the ball forward. I mean, I think that is the fundamental problem we have right now with some of these people in our party.
Yeah, I think that's probably right. I'm just happy there was good sports on, to be honest with you. Because I like having to live that day to day. It just brought flashbacks of.
I'm very proud of your Vikings getting their first win.
Oh, it's very nice of you to come proactively congratulate me. I was sorry to see the overtime loss for the Indianapolis Colts.
It felt like found money, though, because when you're down 20 points in the first half and you're just like ready to turn the TV off, when they come storming back, it's like, it's like you didn't think that was happening. So you just feel good that you still have something to care about.
Well, you cared about it. And Smug had something to care about when you had Russell Wilson lead against a formidable Chicago Bears team, lead in a historic comeback.
See, that's the thing is I don't want the Broncos to win. I mean,
you want regime change.
Yeah, we got to keep tanking, and hopefully we'll get some draft picks, and it becomes abundantly clear that everyone's got to go. A little league team can field better, more competitive professional sports than the current Broncos. He landed a Hail Mary the other week, this guy's career is a Hail Mary. He's just hoping he can throw a lucky pass, but he's got them, stuck to a $100 million contract. I'm I want them to keep losing so it becomes apparent. You just got to throw everybody out.
Someone just has to put a little yellow cake uranium in his locker,
100%.
And Condi will find the solution.
Yeah, we found it. He had it.
I don't even know if I want to bring it up at all with your Cincinnati Bengals. I will note a lot of talk coming into the season.
Yeah, it was a very, very tough week for the Bengals. They've got to do some really deep digging and figure out what's wrong. It starts with the offense, but it's not all about the offense. The defense shares their
I think Burrow's a punk. He got high on his own supply.
Did you see that? It's all about him. Do you see that meme of Macaulay Culkin?
No.
Yeah,
it was just a picture of the mugshot of Macaulay Culkin that said Joe Burrow after he got paid.
Well, they got a lot to figure out, and I think that even Burrow would admit that a lot of it rests on his shoulders. He's got
I doubt
a calf
he would.
injury.
He probably wouldn't. He's a bum.
I think the calf is more injured than they're letting on.
Yep. Yeah.
It could be. It could be. I mean, he hasn't been under center at all this season. Everything's out of shotgun, so it's a one-dimensional team. And
Duncan had a lot of noisy complaints about the number of comments to deal with the Bengals in the run-up to the season.
Yeah.
Duncan, are you pleased that there's been a recession in those discussions?
No, I want more discussion.
No, he wants more. No,
well, how about why don't we
a magnifying glass over an ant?
Why don't we start with this? The Bengals beat the Rams.
Oh,
not in the Super Bowl.
Oh, whoa!
But 2 weeks ago in the regular season, didn't even have to go to overtime.
Congratulations.
All right, back to the spinach for a second. So one of the most hilarious things that came out, and this is where I kind of lost it, guys. I'd been following the shutdown and what everybody's doing, and all the insane, overblown rhetoric about literally just keeping the lights on in the Capitol.
Mm-hmm.
And Democrats had a problem because they didn't. There was just a CR, and they were like, "Oh, we want to delay and think about it and take a caucus position." And Republicans are like, "No, we're going to vote on this to prevent the shutdown or whatever." And this guy Bowman, this Rep Bowman, decides to roll out and pull the fire alarm on the joint. So this is according to that.
I mean, this is an insurrection. Disturbing a proceeding of Congress.
Yeah, that's a felony. 5 years in prison.
Well, in technicality, it is actually interfering.
Yeah, well, it's beyond technical. I mean, that's just law. I mean, we follow the law sometimes in this country. It's only, when Republicans are in trouble, we follow the laws in this country, but Democrats basically can do what they want. This is a prime example. I mean, look at this image. This guy knows what he's doing. I mean, he's been in there. Like, I saw all these Democrats trying to make excuses like, how would you know that the big red lever that says fire on it next to the door isn't how you open the door?
Even worse is that Bowman was a school principal.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like,
he knows damn well what pulling the fire alarm
right.
looks like. He's dealt with that before. But he was like, all right, so they first of all, he pulls the thing. The fire alarm goes off. I don't know whether that actually delayed anything or not. I'm sure it did at some level.
Did.
But either way, then they're like, well, there's photographs and there's video of you doing it. First of all, he was like, no, we didn't do it.
Yeah.
And then they're like, yeah, no, here's you pulling it. It was like, oh, I thought it was the way to open the door.
Yeah.
And then a reporter
right away
for Punch Bowl walked over to the door and took a picture of what he pulled. And it literally was your classic cherry red fire alarm stated clearly across it with the white classic pull down lever.
Yeah.
And could not be confused.
Well, John, and from that image, there's even a sign that says that, like, this door is only for fire emergencies.
Right. Right. Well, John Bresnan wasn't the only reporter with a take. There were some that basically ate up whatever his press secretary was sending and regurgitated it on air. For example, there was a woman who said, quote, Congressman Bowman didn't realize he would trigger a building alarm as he was rushing to make an urgent vote. He regrets any confusion. Just to clarify some things on that. That was MSNBC.
No, who's that reporter?
Yasmin Vazajojan.
Oh, Yasmin Vazajojan.
Yeah, I think I might be saying the last name incorrectly.
Oh, it's not a household name, evidently.
I mean, it's unbelievable that, like, you had the press essentially just line up with, first off, the story that his team was trying to put out there. I saw this great tweet from Charlie Spees who was like, it's not every day you get a press secretary to admit that their member committed a felony. It's probably not the statement you want to put out. Like, official record, yes, we acknowledge.
Well, I was trying to figure out whether it was worse to admit to a felony or admit to, like, you don't know what the bright red fire alarm button, that you were taught in kindergarten.
Yeah.
Is the thing that you pull if something literally is you're looking at fire.
Yeah.
Not guilty by reason of stupid. Yeah. Like what they're trying to play. Oh, I thought it was just, the door handle.
I mean, it's so
all door handles say fire.
It's tough. We need that meme of the guy sweating in the two buttons, and the one is felon and the other one is moron.
Yeah.
But this guy he can't stay out of trouble.
Yeah.
It seems like this guy every couple months we read about something.
I mean,
he's looking for.
And that's why. Like, we keep reading about this, and there's never consequences. So, of course, he's going to keep pulling bullshit. That's like the whole reason the Democrats are the way that they are in this country. You had an entire summer where they rioted and lit every major city on fire with zero consequences. And you even saw in New York where the governor gave, like, a blanket pardon that, like, oh, if you were part of the Summer of Love, it's cool. You can riot, you can loot, you can set buildings on fire, and that's totally fine. And then you have this very clear insurrection. This member who decides that he wants to stop the official business of Congress, and God help us, like, that's just such a horrific and tragic thing that we have an insurrection here on our hands, and this guy's not going to face any consequences.
No,
he's
not
not
at
going
all.
to get thrown in a gulag with Wolf Viking.
Not at all. And just to go back to what this MSNBC reporter was saying, I think Wolf actually has the audio from Vanessa Vajojian.
Last thing I want to mention, and then we're going to take a quick break. There was a mention of Congressman Jamal Bowman, and the pulling of some sort of fire alarm. And I just want to read for you some of the reporting so you understand what actually went on there. There were some reports that began to emerge about Representative Bowman, who was seen pulling some sort of fire alarm in the Cannon House office building earlier today. We got a statement on that. Saying Congressman Bowman did not realize he would trigger a building alarm as he was rushing to make an urgent vote. The congressman regrets any confusion, just to clarify some things on that, because I know there was likely some folks kind of scratching their heads wondering what it was they were asking Speaker McCarthy about.
Well, helpful context.
Right. That clears it up.
Let me read exactly what the press secretary sent to me.
And I'll tell you by the exclusive reporting of NBC, we are in fact on press release lists.
Yeah.
We can read what it is that these people send us.
There is no easier job in this country than Dem press secretary.
What an amazing, this is the quote. Today, as I was rushing to make a vote. First of all, what are you rushing for? You're literally there. It was a Saturday, right?
Yeah.
The fuck else you got going on a Saturday in Congress? You're there to vote, right?
Right.
I mean, it's not like you're taking meetings.
Right.
People, they don't have meetings on a Saturday. This dude's like hanging out, apparently under no interest in making. They post times where you have to go vote.
Mm-hmm.
You couldn't effectively
Well,
wrap his
I mean,
head around that.
You're a house member. You're like, come on, man. I was like taking a nap. What are you doing?
He's like, come on. I was living in my office. What do you expect? I came to a door that is usually open for votes, but today would not open. The door had signs on it saying "Do not open," because unless it's a fire emergency.
And it's always been like that. Like, it's not like, oh, they just changed the door a month ago to emergency door. This has always been the emergency door.
And by the way, this is his office building.
Yeah. It's like being on a plane and then like, using the emergency door, going down the chute and being like, what? We don't always do it this way? That's a normal door.
Let me just say, as an absolute positive, every single time I've ever been in a house office building, I have wanted to pull the fire alarm and walk out one of those doors. You can see freedom. You just can't get to it. And that's part of the problem with that place. You can't, none of those doors are ever open. So Bowman, having worked in that place for years, decides, well, today's the day. Today's the day. But the best part is like he pulls the fire alarm. It didn't even look like he turned around to then try to go out the damn thing.
Mm.
Like, it was just a bullshit excuse.
It's more evidence that it was, in fact, bullshit.
Oh, man. But this takes us back to the top. And my preface for all of this, it's 45 days of government funding.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Like, if you think that your moment in the sun, in the hundreds of years of this republic, and your most important moment is happening with a 45-day continuing resolution over government funding, do us a favor, go back home. Go back home, sit next to the fucking library that you came from. Because this is absurd how much emphasis these people put on this thing. It's absurd. It's an inconsequential vote. It really is. I can't believe everybody's made it this big of a deal. They've now kicked it to December. There's some shit of consequence there. You care about Ukrainian funding. You don't care about Ukrainian funding. You care about all this other stuff. That's a big deal because it's the full package. And like you said, there's one moment where you get as a congressman where you can effectuate change or not. I would argue that you should probably do that in the committee process of the 11 months that you were allotted to make those fucking changes before you get to the end of the year. But no, if you can't do that, if you have to, if you have too many book deals and too many cable TV appearances to go on, and now is the time that you have to really make change, then look to December. Right? I mean, this is just, it makes me so mad that this is the thing. I feel about this, like I feel about Taylor Swift on Sunday Night Football. It's like, I got it. Like, you all think this is a big deal. It's not a big deal. The game is a big fucking deal. It makes no sense that we're talking about Taylor. Why every 2 minutes do I have to look up and see the box where Taylor Swift is hanging out with what's his ass and Blake Lively?
And they rigged it. I mean, the game was rigged because Travis Kelce and the Chiefs are going to lose. So they're like, all right, well.
Oh, you're talking about the holding call?
Yeah, I mean, the game was rigged.
So can I recommend, sound like I've thought about this a lot after watching those replays and everything. People always say, if you could change one thing about football, one rule, one process in the game, what would it be? And people are like, well, I'd get rid of, extra kicks or whatever, something like that.
Legalize
speed
steroids.
Up the game. I've got a recommendation.
I can't wait to object to it.
Okay. I think on passing plays, the quarterback should have 10 seconds to throw the ball. Their plays whistled dead.
What? That's a horrible idea.
Can I explain why? I do not think there is a single play in the NFL in which a quarterback is scrambling and holds the ball for 10 seconds that holding is not occurring. I think it's happening on every single play. And so at that point, if you can't fucking throw the ball to somebody, the play's whistled dead. Or throw it, risk an interception. But to scramble around for 15 seconds, we're all supposed to pretend like those guys on the line aren't being held? Come on. I think it's the biggest myth of football is the idea that a quarterback can scramble for 15 seconds and nobody's holding. Nobody's holding. It happens on every single play. So I think it would fundamentally change the game, and it would bring defense back to football. 10 seconds. You get 10 seconds to throw the ball or the play's whistled dead.
Turns it into dodgeball.
Boy, 10 seconds seems like an eternity.
It is an
Bengals
eternity.
Speak because Burrow's
under
2.5 seconds.
Yeah, the Vikes never got 10 seconds. I think I'd pass out from priapism.
But again, specifically to address the Taylor Swift thing, I've said it before, this is all just a psyop. This is 100% a psyop. It's to sell products. It's to make the NFL get a larger audience.
Bro, that's the thing I do not get. Taylor Swift does not need more audience. The NFL does not need more audience.
The NFL wants more audience.
Like Sunday Night Football, Monday Night Football, like 98 out of 100 of the top-rated programs all year will be live football games.
It's not enough. They want a larger audience, and like Nationwide Insurance guys up there with Kelsey's mom. I'm like, bro, this is a State Farm.
Yeah.
This is a psyop. This is 100%.
I agree. Like I agree with you. I just think it's the most petty psyop in history.
Like any product I see, I will never buy now. I'll have nothing to do with this psyop at all. I don't support it. I know it's fake, and I know.
I saw Dan Katz from Barstool say that, like, look, I understand this is sort of a psyop, but if like this is happening and it has to be on my TV every Sunday, I demand a sex tape.
God. Jeez.
Which I think is completely hilarious. Like, prove to me that this is real.
Yeah, right. I actually like that now.
It's a very funny take.
That's good.
All right, so let's talk Pirates. You guys want to talk about Pirates? It's been a while since we've talked about Pirates.
I have been waiting all episode for this. This is the best thing we're covering today.
What is it?
All right, so there's homeless pirates.
Oh, boy.
And this is according
Where?
to Daily Mail.
Not in Somalia.
Daily Mail's got some great stuff, but this is really like they've outdone themselves. Homeless pirates are marauding through the crime-ridden San Francisco Bay.
Oh, of course they're in San Francisco.
Homeless pirates are now marauding onto houseboats in the San Francisco Bay in the latest criminal enterprise to plague California. Residents along the Oakland Alameda estuary told a community meeting last week the boats have been cut loose so that they can drift out to sea. One woman even recounted how she had rescued another resident on a sailboat in the middle of the night after pirates slashed his rigging lines during an argument. The brazen thieves, whose homeless encampments have spilled out into the city, are taking small motored power dinghies. A small dinghy. And they're using them to smash and grab raids on larger vessels and houseboats.
This is so. My take is, I think, going to be completely different than everyone else's. This is good. This is such great news. I'm so happy to hear this. You know, it says here that they're doing.
Nobody loves a small dinghy like Comfortably Spotted.
Well, they're doing the smash and grabs on like larger vessels and houseboats. It's like raid those yachts, homeless people, because you know the people who own those are the ones who vote for like, oh, we got to get rid of cash bail guys. You know, like it's all the like biggest problem with San Francisco is the class of like billionaires and millionaires there who think if only we legalize crime, everything will be safe. If like instead of trying to stop, you know, fentanyl, we just create these safe areas where people can shoot needles, and sure, that just means that kids are now having to get off the school bus and they see people who are nodding off or shooting heroin. But I feel better about myself. They should face the consequences for a change.
Can I challenge you on one point? Because there's some wisdom in that, but there's one point. Do we think the billionaires are on the Oakland Alameda estuary?
Yes. I mean, so that's to me has also been one of the like shocking changes over the past like 10 to 15 years as Silicon Valley gets like, you know, wealthier and expands. Oakland has essentially become like a suburb of Silicon Valley.
Well,
like
can I get a ruling on that? I mean, is that it's true? No, it's not.
That is true.
He says
That's
that
true.
is true.
I feel like we needed to go to a
No, that is
California
true.
for
And
this.
then these houseboats in the San Francisco Bay, I guarantee these are not
keep
middle
saying
class
San
Americans.
Francisco Bay. They're saying the Oakland Alameda estuary.
It says
that seems to me to like
it says
maybe they're
right-
cutting loose a couple of Lund 18-footers.
I'm just reading the I'm reading the headline and the first line in the article. It's happening right there in the San Francisco Bay. This is your standard, it's not like, it's
Look,
the middle class
I-
family with their house with a boat on the lake. No.
Look, I have to side with Smug here because more from the article is that this has really impacted the community sailing center, an organization that teaches young kids to sail, shared that 4 of their 8 safety boats had been stolen and police were slow to react. I don't know. I don't know a lot of poor kids or middle class kids who are taught to sail.
Well, maybe that's an opportunity for them, Michael. Have you ever thought about that?
I have thought about that. I hope it is. But unfortunately, because of the city in which they live, they don't get that opportunity anymore.
Well,
because their parents vote for dog shit policies that empower criminals.
I mean, I think those schools are an opportunity for those kids to pursue an exciting career in piracy.
Well, they're teaching them valuable lessons on how to be blackjack.
Halloween's going to be lit in the estuary.
A lot of pirates.
Be like, whoa, all these kids are really dressing up. They're taking in the spirit this year. Oh my God, they're coming aboard.
They've taken my Boston whaler. I mean, I don't know. I guess this seems like a problem.
Yeah.
But
I enjoy whenever I hear things going bad in California.
The
As long as the people don't move, don't leave that state, you vote for this, live with it. You let the misery continue. I hope it gets a lot worse, and you get what you deserve. You're getting what you voted for.
They've just hired a brand new senator from Maryland.
That's right. That's right.
Can we talk about that for a minute?
Yeah.
We're gonna skip ahead a little bit, but that's I think worth discussing. This is LaFonsa Butler.
Mm-hmm.
As we know, there was the passing of Dianne Feinstein over the weekend, and Governor Gavin Newsom is given the power by the state of California to be able to appoint a replacement. Recall that during the course of his campaign several years ago, he had promised, much as Joe Biden promised with his first Supreme Court justice, that it would be an African-American woman. Okay,
yeah.
Like it is what it is. Now they happen to have a Senate race going on for that very seat, where there is an African-American woman running for Senate, Barbara Lee. She was not the choice of Gavin Newsom. Who was the choice, LaFonsa Butler, is she's a resident of Maryland, for starters. Second of all, she's the head of Emily's List. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with Emily's List, it is the preeminent pro-abortion political advocacy arm of the Democratic Party.
It's a massive left-wing dark money group that just wants to push abortion with no cutoff.
No
Zero
limits.
cutoff.
They're the ones that set the sort of zero consideration for anything. Like they're the ones that basically forced the hand of the Virginia dude with a governor.
Yeah,
who
where he was like, well, even after it's born, I guess it's okay to have an abortion.
Yeah, we talk well, we keep it comfortable. We keep talk to the mom.
Then we have a phone call with the doctor and Emily's List, and they say like, what's kosher?
Yeah.
And then
how do we
like,
proceed?
Abort, no abort.
Yeah.
Like you make the call.
The way I like to describe it to people is like the abortion lobby is what the left thinks the NRA is on the right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It actually is
That's a
to
really
the left.
Great comparison.
What everybody thinks the NRA is to the right. Like it turns out the NRA represents a cause that the right totally agrees with in the Second Amendment.
Yeah.
And they've been a big, powerful organization, no question about it. But they aren't actively like selecting candidates and like primarying the hell out of any other candidate. And that's what Emily's List does on the left.
Right.
That's what they do.
Yes.
And they've turned Emily's List into basically the progressive lobbying arm and the political arm of the Democratic Party.
And so you guys think that's why Gavin Newsom picked her over there's like 1 million black women in the state of California. So he picked this.
I thought the story
woman
was
from Maryland.
that like Gavin Newsom has ambitions for even higher office, and he wants to know, number one, that he's got Emily's List on board because, like we said, they're like, the political arm of the Democrat Party that decides candidates, plays in all these major races. He wants to make sure they're on board. And further, by doing this, he's like, okay, well, I have a favor that I can call in to you. You know, when I make you a senator for, 10 months, I guess?
Yeah.
Until they have an actual election.
But then they bent over backwards to say that this is not a temporary pick.
That if she wants to run for re-election, that she's more than welcome.
And I think that's the interesting thing is the intrigue here on the Democrat level of why he couldn't pick Barbara Lee, for example,
or Karen Bass,
because of
mayor of LA.
Nancy Pelosi supports what's his name,
Adam Schiff.
So Nancy Pelosi's up in there hey, you cannot allow one of these other candidates, that to get appointed. So then they're an incumbent essentially in this primary, and that'll help significantly boost their chances. She's with Adam Schiff.
It does help a lot in a state as big as California because nobody's going to have the kind of dollars that it necessitates to have statewide name ID in a state of 50 million people and media markets up and down the entire coast. So the power of incumbency does mean something. I mean, it means you're on TV all the time just as a matter of your job. But this goes back to, remember, you guys will recall last spring when Feinstein initially fell ill.
Yeah.
And there was nothing but New York Times articles and all of these other things in sort of left-wing press, up in arms that she wouldn't resign. And if you're just a sort of a consumer of the news, you'd think about that and you'd be like, well, this has got to be the first time I've ever heard of a mainstream media outlet being concerned about the service of a Democratic senator.
Yeah, it's what Ashbrook always says. It's if somebody's getting a bad story out there about a Democrat, it's only to help some other Democrat.
Right, and that's what it was.
Axiomatic.
Is that they were trying to get her to resign to get them to actually appoint Barbara Lee. In comes Nancy Pelosi, who ultimately says she shouldn't go anywhere. She's a legend. Of course, because she wants to get to the election where she can get Adam Schiff, Shifty Schiff, the watermelon with a toothpick, onto the stage and have him be senator. So all this is internal politics. But what's so fantastic about this is that they've now literally on this woman, LaFonza Butler's Twitter page is her residence in Maryland.
Yeah.
It's just wild.
What the? I mean, it's just brazen.
It is. There are we checked the data on this. There are well over 1 million black women in the state of California. I'm sure he could have found some competent person inside of the state who would have fit the bill of what he was looking for. There are 40 million people in that state. There are a lot of smart people. It's a lot of industry that is built up out of nowhere in that state, and yet you pick somebody from Maryland to represent your place.
But back to Smug's point, and Wolf made a similar point before the show. Is if you are Gavin Newsom and you think you actually might get a chance to run for president of the United States and Joe Biden might step aside, appointing another black woman senator and then stepping over Kamala Harris, maybe that makes the medicine go down a little easier for the Democrat base.
You think are you suggesting that Joe Biden is going to knock Kamala off for Gavin Newsom, or are you suggesting Gavin Newsom knocks Kamala off to replace Joe Biden on the ticket?
No.
When you say step over Kamala,
right?
I'm just wondering what you mean.
I think what he's trying to do is build out a CV for when Joe Biden steps aside and Kamala Harris can't get anointed as the nominee, that he can say, look, I appointed a black woman to the United States
I've
Senate.
done what it takes.
Then he can,
and no one is a greater fighter for women than I mean, she was the head of Emily's list.
Then he can get headlines just like Bill Clinton that says Bill Clinton was the first black president.
Right.
You guys remember that?
Yeah.
It's just ridiculous.
Plus, it's just a healthy credential in the aborting children count while we're at it, too, right? I mean, he's got it all going. Can I ask an uncomfortable question about this? I just want to get your reaction.
Oh, God.
Always.
I'm worried.
Well, you should be, because this is, it requires some discussion, but we're the only ones that'll do this on the Ruthless Variety program. Everybody else shies away from these kind of things. So I also read in The Hill that she would be the first LGBTQ plus, I'm quoting, person to represent California, and also the first openly black lesbian ever to serve in the Senate.
Yeah.
She runs Emily's List, which is isn't it just abortion?
Yeah.
Isn't there some incongruency there? Like, how does this?
I mean, for a political party that speaks so much about lived experience, you know, you would think somebody who was going to get pregnant would be the head of an organization like that says that it cares about women's reproductive health. I don't know.
Because wasn't the previous president somebody who was like on TV talking about how they had 3 or 4 abortions? Just had them, right? What was the was like
Richards?
Aunt Richards.
Is that no
Richards'
not Ann,
daughter,
or
granddaughter,
Cecile, I think.
Cecile Richards. Yeah.
Right.
Well, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So then they're like, no.
It doesn't seem like the best spokesperson.
I just don't understand. Like, this is the modern Democratic Party.
Yeah.
You don't ask questions about stuff like this. It's like, nope, she checks like 4 identity boxes, so we're all set here. She's going to be the president of an abortion lobby, despite the fact that there's never any danger of her actually getting pregnant. And now she's going to be a representative of the great state of California, because we've made the incredible choice to limit ourselves to only black women, despite the fact that there's what you said is 6% of the population of California is African American.
7.
So 3 or 4% black women. So that's our policy there.
Yeah.
Because that checks the right box, and she happens to also be gay, so that's perfect too. Check. And like nobody ever says, can she be a senator? Like, I don't know her from Adam. I mean, maybe she's smart, but like...
And that's the thing is, yes, that is the Democrats now. Is
right.
They check the boxes, and the reason she got picked is because she's a prolific fundraiser. She brings in the money.
So that's it.
That's all that matters to that. I mean, at the end of the day, the Democrat Party now is just a corporate entity.
So this lady, to
Right.
the extent that she tries to run for re-election, would be like chairman of the DSCC in the next cycle.
Yeah. I mean, like, she brings in boatloads of money. And that was apparent to Gavin Newsom when he made that pick. Because knowing people who can bring in the money is all that it comes down to on their side. That's all that matters.
I think it's more... I agree with what you're saying, that it's about money. But for Gavin Newsom, I think it's about just a little bit more than that, because in Gavin Newsom's backyard, he's got all the money he's got all the money he needs. But what he doesn't have is nationwide recognition among the pro-abortion groups, and nationwide recognition that Kamala Harris seems to have snatched, whether she deserves it or not. And the point is, there are much more qualified people in the state of California who are Democrats. Karen Bass is not somebody who a Republican would choose, but she's somebody who has earned the job. Like, she probably, if Democrats were smart, she probably should have been Joe Biden's pick for number 2. But she, I think, happens to be a little bit smarter than Joe Biden, so that he may have.
I agree with you.
She's earned it.
I think when it comes to California politics, and in particular the Democrat Party, like, I don't think there's a very strong correlation to being elected and being good at the job. Like, I think that's been quite clear that Kamala Harris, who couldn't get to Iowa, was selected as Joe Biden's running mate.
After calling him a racist.
That you have to replace a seat.
I
You've got 50 million people, and you pick the Marylander who's the head of the abortion lobby. You know what I mean? I mean, I feel bad. Like, I thought it was funny we were laughing about the homeless pirates. I feel bad for the people of California.
No.
That you're the most populous state in the union, and you can't elect anybody worth a shit.
Also, like, why has no reporter asked this senator, essentially, or soon to be senator, do you pay income tax in California or not?
Wait,
I think the answer is no.
Dude, there's no gotcha that they can't get over. They don't give a shit.
But that's the thing.
He's registered to vote in Maryland.
But they don't even ask the question. I mean, that's the thing.
They're not gonna ask
they don't even ask the question, and every voter in California is a sucker.
Is that
because that's what you're getting?
They're absolute suckers.
Is there any? We're going to look into this, but I wonder if there is any sort of state law that requires you to be confined to your home state when you're actually appointing a senator. Like, if I could just be like, I don't know,
she just has to move back before she's
issue.
appointed. She just has to move back before she's officially appointed. That's it.
That's all.
Now, when she runs on ballot, yes, she has to have residency in the state. But for the purposes of the appointment, they can fix the glitch by her just moving back.
But this is the thing.
What an amazing thing.
Yeah.
I don't think Adam Schiff and Katie Porter are going to go quietly. Schiff, it sounds like he's already got $35 million in the bank. Katie Porter has already come at her ex-husband with mashed potatoes and like a broken coffee pot. She's not going to just let this woman from Maryland waltz into the job she wants.
Yeah, no, she'll hit the mashed potatoes.
It's going to be
sure.
a bloodbath.
Yeah.
It's going to be a bloodbath.
Well, I don't know. We're going to keep an eye on it, but I do find the whole thing just as a perfectly endemic problem within the Democratic Party that it illustrates everything that they're terrible at.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right. So look, we talked. Remember when we did the whole bumper sticker thing of the Bidenomics?
Yeah.
And we just made fun of it. Well, it turns out they're having some regrets.
Oh no.
It turns out that all of the branding, this is according to Axios, the Biden re-election campaign's decision to brand the economy under the president's name, Bidenomics, is looking like an early blunder that misread the public's deep pessimism about how things are going on that front. Polling shows that Americans' overall perception of the economy is sour. Only 28% of the Americans said they were very or somewhat satisfied with the state of economy. Yeah. I mean,
that's not just like very like, boy, this is great. It's very or somewhat.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like any positive feelings at all about what Joe Biden's got cooking in the economy. 28%. Everybody else is like, no, bad.
Somewhat is terrific.
Somewhat. They could only get it to 28 by including somewhat.
Yeah, like, well, I don't know. I paid rent this month, so somewhat.
This is
Bidenomics.
This is one of these cases. This is one of these cases where easy, good press for Democrats comes back to bite them. And they know that if they come up with something and they sell it to the press, it's going to be at the lead of the Washington Post. It's going to be the lead of the New York Times without question. And they're just going to say Bidenomics. That's what's good about America. And sometimes they get out in front of themselves a little bit too far, and it comes back to bite them. And that's the situation.
I mean, again, like. To not see, I mean, this administration has, like we've discussed before, they've tried to first say inflation's not real, and they said it's transitory, and they see this environment, and their takeaway is to put on blinders and think we can convince them that everything is okay. If we just say Bidenomics, then you know what? Even our base is going to go out and carry the message, and we're going to get at least half of Americans to pull the lever for us and be brainwashed into believing because actually the economy is good.
Like they don't even really need to believe it so much as they need to have an excuse to their neighbor, which is what I think that their whole point of view is. Like their messaging is so laughably inconsistent with the record that I don't think that it's tailor-made to actually convince anybody of anything. I think it is just like they need to provide your Democrat a non-embarrassing way to say that they're going to vote for Joe Biden. And I think that's what they've come up with. I mean, Bidenomics, it's just if they
dumb.
walked into my office with it and I'm running that campaign and they're like, I got an idea. The economy, you've seen it.
It's hard not to laugh.
You've seen the 11% inflation. You've seen what we've done with the place. Bidenomics. I'm Jamal Biden or Jamal Boat. I'm pulling the fire alarm on that thing, right? I mean, I'm running out the back. But they're like, no, it's great. Let's work it into the talking points and do that. And I don't think that's designed to really. I don't think anybody would buy it. I think they're smart enough to know nobody buys that, right?
It was like the comms team sitting around. They're like, you know how ISIS releases those tapes after they kill people and they take credit for it? What if we do the same thing with the economy? Bidenomics. And they're like, sure, fuck it. Why not?
I think they're living in their own fantasy world. They live in their own planet that is not in reality, that's in Washington, D.C., that gets positive feedback from every journo they talk to. And everybody's like, yeah, it's much better than everybody else says out there. We need to make sure people know it's better than they think. You know, like that's the feedback loop they live in. And it's a cancer to their ability to actually deliver a consistent message. And if they had an opponent who was able to fight back, they'd be in real trouble.
Yeah, I mean, it seems to me they were in real trouble no matter what. And speaking of that, here's an added wrinkle to that. And Smug, I know this has caught your attention. RFK Jr. super PAC preps him to run as an independent. This is according to Politico.
Yeah.
A super PAC supporting Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has begun polling his support as an independent, one of the strongest indications to date that a long-shot Democrat is set to announce a party affiliation switch. The poll, conducted by the firm John Zogby Strategies and commissioned by American Values 2024 PAC, comes amid growing speculation fueled by Kennedy himself that he'll leave the Democratic Party in the upcoming weeks. Well, that's an interesting
Huge news. Huge news. I mean, I think, number one, the approach that the Dems have taken to this of trying to just like ignore the polling where it shows that in some polls it shows a majority of Democrats are not happy with their choice in the general election. A majority. And that Joe Biden his campaign didn't even try to get his name on the ballot in Iowa is a prime example of just completely taking it for granted of like, no, we don't need to care about anything voters are concerned with or even show that we're trying. Everyone remembers when President Trump was the incumbent, he was on the ballot in Iowa still. He made sure of that, even though, it didn't have any actual value and there's no actual competition. He did it still. And the fact that Joe Biden's campaign has said, no, we completely regard the voters, with such disdain, opened up this lane in the first place. And RFK has garnered a ton of attention. Like, anytime he is mentioned anywhere online, it's like it soaks up views and attention and discussion, and they've tried to ignore him for so long, and essentially they tried to screw him by like saying we're not going to allow this guy to have any sort of a platform. This is going to have I think huge repercussions for the Democrats, because he's going to pull a ton of support.
Look, getting a platform does get harder though once you choose this lane. Once you decide you're going to be an independent candidate outside of the two major parties, you got to get ballot access. You got to get a bunch of petition signatures to get ballot access in a bunch of states. It's a very expensive process. I totally agree with what you're saying, though, Smug, that the guy generates a ton of buzz, especially online. And that's what you're seeing.
There are a lot of, unlike like a no labels effort, for example, which has to go out and actually establish party access in a lot of these different states. Almost every state has a version of a third party with ballot access. Some are just independent party. Some are like New York has like 5 or 6 of them.
Yeah.
Right.
And the whole joke of the Independence Party. So you have an I next to your name, but it's not an independent. It's a separate party.
Some of them are a Green Party. Like the idea
but
that
that's
you could
the problem.
But look,
because Cornel West is running as a Green Party candidate already,
but he doesn't have a nomination. And I think that's part of the issue is if you're somebody on the left, because they got to reap what they sow. What the left has done in a lot of competitive states is try to create these third line parties to try to edge out whatever Republican support, because they can't win popular elections in a lot of these swing states. And so they create, like Montana's a perfect example, where they have literally funded libertarian slates over the years in order to keep the Republican Party down so Democrats can actually win with 48% of the vote. Like John Tester has never had 50 in his entire career. He's like running for a third term. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So you could hypothetically shop around if you're Kennedy Jr. to try to do something like that. What I think is a little odd about, and this is the result of their survey, we should probably say, is that they had Trump at 40, Biden at 38, and the independent at 17. So if you're a Democrat, you look at that and you're like, well, looks to me like he's pulling it out of Biden's hide. I'm not really sold on that.
Well, then when they named the independent as Robert F. Kennedy Jr., it actually took points out of Trump.
Yeah.
So, it's anybody's guess right now who he's actually taken it out of. There's a lot of argument to be made that he is taking something out of Trump, because
I think he'd take a lot more from Biden.
I'm not sure about that.
I think so.
I'm not sure about that, because if you look at the support that Kennedy Jr. has had, it's the Tucker Carlson wing of the Republican Party.
People who are worried about the vaccine and the, all the implications with that. I mean,
distrust of government institutions. You've got, theories about how JFK was killed. You've got, all of these like various things that have encompassed the sort of the online. I don't even want to say far right because I don't think it's conservative. But like the online right has been encapsulated under the Kennedy branch so far. And I think in the Democratic Party, that doesn't hurt Biden. Independently, it may help him in some ways, if that sticks. Now, granted, you're going up against Trump there, which, again, if you are at all conservative leaning, it probably peels that back to a certain extent. I don't know. It's an interesting experiment. I mean,
I just have a hard time thinking. Like, look, dude, Trump, we have seen in this primary, through all of these indictments, through him not showing up the debates and his huge polling lead, that his support has a stickiness to it that not a lot of other politicians have. I just have a hard time believing at the end of the day when, even if it was RFK on the independence ticket or the Reform Party, the Constitution Party or whatever in all these various states. And then you've also got like Cornel West on the Green Party ticket and maybe another third party candidate that at the end of the day, you'd end up with more votes taken out of Trump than on Biden. I mean, half of them don't want Biden to be the nominee.
Yep.
Yeah, I just have to think at the end of the day, it actually hurts Biden more.
Well,
that's my feeling.
I look, it hurt Hillary. It hurt Hillary in 16 by having a third party.
Yeah.
Particularly
Jill
in Wisconsin.
Stein.
Jill Stein. So anyway, we'll keep an eye on that. That's an important development. Lastly, and I'm curious about your thoughts on this, Smug. NASA publishes a never-before-seen photo of Ravioli Moon orbiting Saturn. The National Aeronautics and Space Administration. Well, I'll get to that just a second.
What? Wait, but what did you say? It's a what moon?
Ravioli.
Ravioli?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can we get a photo of this thing up for you? I mean, there Wait,
is that for real or did we make that?
No, that is it.
It looks like one of those like 1950s sci-fi movies.
Wait, we didn't make this up?
No.
That's real?
That's the Italian homeworld. That's it right there.
Do you think that's got like a ricotta cheese center, or is that like
Or do you think it's a meat?
It's a gabagool.
Maybe a meat.
Maybe a pancetta?
Oh my God.
It could be a pancetta, but like if you get too much meat, you might be verging into like Lebanese.
Oh, okay.
So I commonly it's a cheese.
Yeah.
That we're dealing with a ravioli type, or at least some kind of a mixture. Anyway, NASA dropped these photos. And
that's real.
Yeah. It was taken from, it says here, the Cassini spacecraft.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is legit. Like,
it's real. That's a legit thing right there.
The ravioli.
According to the space agency, the ridge around the equator of Pan has similar characteristics to Atlas, another moon orbiting Saturn. Do you feel like the name ravioli is indicative of anything in particular, Smug?
No, I mean, like I said, this is probably like this is the Italian homeworld. This is where all of it comes from, folks. The mafia, it all originated. This is ground zero for.
So is New Jersey their like alien colony?
That is where they landed.
Okay,
100%. That's the situation.
Wait, this is Chef Boyardee's home. This is him.
Chef Boyardee is an alien. That's what he said. It's possible.
I do think that this is kind of Polish erasure, though. Like,
oh, wait a minute.
I look at that photo and I don't see a
dome.
ravioli. I see a pierogi.
You see a pierogi.
I see a pierogi filled with mashed potatoes, and there's oil on there, and there's some great onions.
It's spoken like a Pennsylvanian, right?
Maybe you're going to have it with some Polish sausage.
And that's the thing. The NASA's Instagram posted this photo and said,
for our
Wilkes-Barre
Wilkes-Barre audience, they're all of a sudden incredibly tuned in.
NASA posted that image on their Instagram and said that ravioli, pierogi, empanada, what do you see?
Pierogi.
That's ravioli.
I see pierogi.
I don't know. Would it change your view of the inhabitants of this particular? I mean, do we know? Is there life on this particular moon?
I think we should find out, and I guarantee there's trouble.
Trouble. Guaranteed trouble. Oh, well, as you can tell, we're going to have a lot of fun this week. We will get down to business and play some games and do all kinds of things later in the week. We'll have guests that you'll love. But in the meantime, fellas, I think we kicked this thing off right, didn't we?
I think so. Absolute banger of an episode. Gentlemen, like you said, there's going to be a lot of exciting developments. You want to stay tuned for some special videos. So until next time, minions, keep the faith, hold the line, and own the libs. We'll see you on Thursday. Stay ruthless.